Hinwo opened his eyes slowly, frowning and groaning, trying to adjust to his surroundings. As he regained complete consciousness, his went cold by looking at Taehyung, who was sitting on the couch across the bed, casually leaning against the head of the couch, with his eyes closed. Hinwo panicked and looked around the room, only to discover that he was surrounded by over 10 fully armed guards, who were ready to shoot at any time. As Hinwo's stress level mounted, he tried to get out of the bed and make a run for his life, as the vibes in the room were telling him that he won't be able to survive for too long. But just as he was ready to place his feet on the floor, a guard pushed him back to the bed by directly hitting his wound. His yelp woke Taehyung up, and he looked at Hinwo silently, all blank, as if he was thinking about something. His dark gaze gripped Hinwo, causing him to blurt out nonsense. She is lying, shook his head manically while looking at Taehyung with horrified gaze. He woke up, stood up and calmly walked towards him, scooting back in fear. I swear I didn't do anything. Wine is lying. Is she? Tilted his head creepily. Yes. What is she lying about? That I killed Mizu. But she didn't mention that. She didn't? His face went pale, fearing that he had blown his cover. I thought she had lied too. Did you? What? Did you? My sister? He spoke with straight expressions, but only he knew how he had controlled himself to not to end him right there and then. No, why would I? I didn't. He gulped in fear and trembled. Taehyung suddenly extended his hand towards Hinwo, making him jump in his place. You're sweating too much. It's not good for your heart. It can lower its sale value. Patted Hinwo's sweat off his forehead with his handkerchief. Meanwhile, Hinwo looked at him as if he was facing his. I didn't kill Mizu. Enough! His gaze dangerously sharp as he leaned in and put his foot on the bed, caging Hinwo under him. For some time only the sound of Hinwo's breath was heard, which came in like short, frantic bursts, almost like a dog panting in the heat of fear. Taehyung sighed and spoke normal, as if he didn't scare Hinwo just now. I'm a reasonable man, Hinwo. If you say you did not do it, then who am I to argue? So stop repeating the same line. It won't make any difference. Pretended to appear uninterested. Taehyung's calm demeanor was screaming that something was about to go morally wrong. Yet his twisted word tricked Minho into thinking that Taehyung still believed him. Something sparked in Hinwo's eyes, and he smirked in relief before swiftly changing his look to one of hurt and spoke. Wine, fake sighed. I never expected such behavior from her. First she tried to me, and when I didn't give in, she me mercilessly. She's a real psychopath. You should get legal forces involved. Legal forces are getting involved, but that doesn't mean I won't take revenge in my way. Really? That's great. Grinned awkwardly as Taehyung's dark gaze lingered on him, as if he was about to prey on him anytime. So when can I be discharged from this hospital? Right now, if you are ready. Placed his foot back on the floor and stepped back to give Hinwo some space to pass. Okay then. He cast a suspicious glance at Taehyung since he didn't know what to do next and what Taehyung was up to. Still, he decided to make the best out of the situation and leave as quickly as he could. He passed Taehyung, stepped outside and cautiously walked to exit the hospital. No one stopped him. When he stepped out of the hospital's main exit and breathed in the cool night air, a sense of victory washed over him. However, before he could take another step, the harsh sound of metal clicking around his wrist froze him in place. Going somewhere? Taehyung sternly spoke, standing face to face against him as two police officers appeared from the shadows, gripping his arm tightly. Soon after, many officers surrounded him from all around, while police car siren announced his arrest. Why? For what am I being arrested? A bunch of. That will get you. So. You set me up, did I? He stepped closer, his eyes cold. I told you I'm a reasonable man. I just did not mention what I considered reasonable. As the officers led the furious yet terrified Hinwo away, Taehyung stood in the cold dark night, watching silently and plotting his next move. Few days later, Taehyung tried to tell Ryan the truth, but something always held him back, or perhaps it was the wall of coldness that Ryan had created between them. Despite his best efforts, Ryan never glanced at him or gave him the attention that he craved like a man craves water. The chocolates and flowers he bought for her would decay before his eyes, but she would never touch them. Yet he could not blame her or complain, as he was reaping what he sowed. Today was the hearing of Hyunwoo's case, in which the entire truth would be revealed in front of the public. It was a high-profile case as the famous businessmen were involved, but Wan was unaware of everything, so Taehyung decided to have her witness her victory rather than inform her about it. He knocked on her bedroom door and entered after he heard her soft coming. She was working on her laptop while sitting on her bed, so he cleared his throat to get her attention. But who was he kidding? She was never going to glance up after learning that Taehyung was there in front of her. I looked around as he was suddenly so nervous. I wanted to take you somewhere. No. Refused his request without even looking at him. Why? He looked hurt. My will. After a few seconds of silence, he swallowed his pride and spoke. It's necessary. Our parents are gonna be there too. Thinking maybe he was talking about some family lunch or dinner, she spoke. What time? Still working on her laptop. 2 p.m. Okay. Taehyung bit his lower lip to control his emotions and left her room with a heavy heart, as something in him was telling him that his prayers weren't getting answered. In the courtroom, the case on Hyunwoo started with charges of and ended with the charge of measles, as all the evidence were against him. They questioned Ryan in the court as well, as she was involved in the accident. But due to her weak mental state and the fact that Taehyung had already collected enough evidence to prove Ryan innocent and Hyunwoo guilty, they didn't ask her much. After careful consideration, this court finds the defendant guilty on all charges. Soon after, the judge announced Hyunwoo's life sentence without parole, and police escorted him out to put him behind the bars for life. As Van stepped out of the courtroom, everyone around her offered her congratulations, sympathy, and apologies, but she barely heard them. Taehyung approached from behind, took her hand, and began heading towards his car, but he had to stop when she did not move from her place. He turned around with a fear that was ready to eat him alive, and by getting one look at her face, he could tell what was about to happen. Wine? He began, his voice low and full of emotions. I don't, she said softly, but her voice carried the weight of all the pain she had endured. You helped prove my innocence, and for that I'm grateful. But let's not play with the broken glass anymore. Indicates that their relationship has already ended. I know I've hurt you, but she shook her head, cutting him off. Her gaze still sat on the ground. It's like we are trying to piece together something that's already shattered. We are both holding on to broken glass, hoping it would fit back together. But all we are doing is cutting ourselves. He held both of her hands and stared into her eyes, desperation creeping into his tone. Fine, please. Don't say that. I'll do anything to make it right. I don't want to keep, and I don't want you to either. She slowly took her hands out of his grip as he started to loosen, and she was about to turn when Taehyung grabbed her hand once again, this time a bit firmly. She looked at him, stunned by his audacity. Let me go. Not until we have a chance to really talk. to really figure this out. In one swift moment, he opened the car door and guided her inside, his hand never leaving hers, even as she tried to pull away. He locked the door behind her and went to the driver's side, his mind racing. What do you expect to happen? That one conversation will change everything? I had already told you. The day my innocence will be proved, I will walk out of your life. He started the car, his hand gripping the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning red. The desperation in his chest tightened, twisting into something darker, something that would not let him simply watch one walk out of his life. I'm not letting you go. Not when I know I can fix this. Not when I know that you are still mine. No matter how much you try to deny it. I've already lost so much. I can't lose you too. The hint of madness in his gaze brought tears in her eyes, but she fought them back, refusing to show weakness. I'm tired of my reality. As she mumbled softly under her breath and diverted her dreary gaze to look out the window, his expression softened, and his mind started between the fierce need to keep her close and the faint whisper of reasons telling him to let her go for her happiness. One week later.